I do have some cards up here with information, and my business card too, with my contact information for you to grab on your way out. But a little bit about my background. I was born in Milwaukee. My family moved here in the early 70s when I was small. My father worked for the city. He was the plumbing inspector for the city for 30 years until he retired. And I grew up with a strong appreciation for local government, for the struggles of local government, and the important job that government employees do. And I also grew up with a strong appreciation for news. My dad was an avid Milwaukee Journal reader, and we got it every day. We got that, and we got the Wausau Daily Herald every day, and we would read it together. And it really encouraged a love of good journalism and an appreciation for the importance of good reporting on local matters. So I have a degree in journalism from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. I'm right now going for a master's in creative writing through the University of Texas. I'm just doing that part-time while I'm working. Hopefully it will be done before too long. I spent 15 years in radio and writing freelance before I became a full-time journalist with the Wausau Daily Herald. So I joined the Daily Herald in 2011? I think 2011. I worked there, did the cops and crime beat, that's what we call it, the cops and crime, and covered everything from crashes to homicides to, you name it, the public safety aspect of things. After that, I became part of the USA Today Wisconsin investigative team, and I still worked at an office at the Daily Herald. I covered Wisconsin issues for USA Today. So I loved my work there. I had a wonderful, wonderful career with that group, and was really proud of some of the things that we produced. But I became a little bit concerned about the future of the bigger newspapers. So while I was there, went through some pretty significant downsizing. I ended up making it through every round, every cut, but every time, I mean, the pink slips just kept coming, the people just kept leaving, and I live in Wausau. This is my home, this is my community. I don't want to go somewhere else to find a job working at a newspaper. I just don't. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just knew that I wanted to continue reporting on local issues. So I worked for the City Pages for about a year, but that turned out not to be the greatest fit, only because they really have a focus on entertainment, and they do a great job of it. They do some really great profile pieces, but I was really missing having that hard news aspect, really covering the news the way I truly believe it needs to be covered. At the same time, the Gannett newspapers went to a different kind of focus. They went to more of a regional focus. And I'm sure you notice in your newspaper there's a lot of information about what's going on in Rapids, in Marshfield, and Point. And I understand why they're doing that, but that too, I think, has created a news gap here. So I really believe, and I will always believe, that people care more about what happens in their own backyards than they ever will care about a coffee shop opening in Wisconsin Rapids. I just do. And there's a little bit less focus on public safety. They don't report on crime as much as they used to. So there were a lot of things that I felt deserved a more intensive look, and that's why Wausau Pilot and Review was born. So we launched this in March of last year, March of 2017, so a pretty new publication. Why Wausau Pilot and Review? Wausau's first newspaper was the Wisconsin River Pilot, and then there was a Wausau Weekly Review, and those two newspapers merged. So the Pilot Review name comes from historical context in this city. So that's basically where it came from. I'm sure you all know the importance of a free press, and this is something that I firmly believe in. The idea of a free press, able to hold government officials accountable. It's based on the First Amendment. We are guaranteed this. We're not we're not here to be public relations experts for any community. We're here to represent the people and the people's interests, and we do that by holding government officials accountable. And I believe that there is nothing more important than doing that on a local level. So I'm sure many of you are aware that there has been a serious decline in journalism over the last decade. There are 50% fewer journalists now, working journalists now, than there were in 2011. 50% fewer journalists. It's a lot. Newsrooms have closed. They have shut down all across the country, basically because the revenue went away. Craigslist and online advertising took away that big bag of money that was coming for those classified ads, and the advertising revenue went away. So the traditional print newspapers have had to really scramble to try to fill that gap, and as a result, there's been this shrinking news coverage. For example, when I was at the Daily Herald, there were 12 beat reporters. We all had our own beats. There was a South Metro, there was a Merrill reporter, there was an outdoor reporter, business, school reporter, there was a crime reporter, there was a local government reporter, and there was a lifestyles reporter. Everybody had their specific beat that they covered. They're down to 3 now. 3. And when I was there at 12, that was considered small. The company had already gone through some major cuts. So they just don't have the manpower that they used to have either. So it is not to say that they're not fine journalists. They are, but there are fewer of them. So they can't possibly cover everything the way that they used to cover. There are a lot of things. If you look back in the library and pull out a newspaper from 10 years ago, it was big. I mean, it had some thud when it hit your porch, remember? And it doesn't have that anymore because a lot of the sections went away. The editorials went away. Opinion pages went away. Community sections went away. The business announcements, even those little briefs like, hey, a bank named a new vice president. Those kinds of things. Businesses love to share the good news about things that happen in their company. And there's just that is just not being published anymore. So we saw all of that as opportunity for us. So an opportunity, a gap that needed to be filled. But the question is, how do you do it, right? So I was sitting at the dinner table, and I think I had complained one too many days about how much I was unhappy with my job. And my husband, who's sitting here tonight, said, "Why don't you just start your own?" I thought, well, sure, easier said than done, but it planted the seed. This was really his idea. He planted the seed in my head, and then I started doing some research. What do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? And the why is pretty clear, because newscasts matter. It means accountability goes away, and there have been some pretty significant academic studies that show that this is true. There's a trickle-down effect. If local newsrooms hold governments accountable, and that accountability goes away, there is a correlation between the newsrooms going away and a higher likelihood of corruption. And that leads to deteriorating economic conditions for everyone in the community. So that's why it matters. And it means, with a shortage of reporting, stories aren't written, scandals are not exposed, government waste is not revealed, dangers are not identified in time, and local elections involving candidates about whom we know very little. That's all a problem for democracy. It's all a problem when news goes away. So, started planning this paper in November of 2016, and really decided to go with a nonprofit model for a number of reasons that I'll get into. We secured funding, our initial startup funding, from a private family foundation called the White Family Foundation. They're based in Minnesota, but they're the figurehead of the group is from northern Wisconsin and somebody who I've known for many, many years. So I was able to get startup funding for 2 years from the White Family Foundation, so I had a little bit of breathing room, and they said, well, we'll fund you for 2 years, and if you can't make it after 2 years, then we're going to have a little chat. So luckily, I think we're well on our way to having the sustainability. But so we launched March 11th, 2017, and we had a goal. We wanted to have 3,000 page views a day by the end of the year. We thought that was a pretty good goal. We not only exceeded that, we've nearly tripled that. So we're edging into about 12,000 page views per day on average every day. So we know that we're reaching people, we're reaching readers, and it continues to grow. So while subscription rates are on the decline for print papers, we continue to grow and reach more people. So I mean, that's the great news. So our team consists of me and then Amy Kinnes, who was the former assistant managing editor at Wausau Daily Herald. She was my first boss at the Daily Herald. She joined our team just a couple of months ago. She works 3 days a week and has really helped to take kind of the load off and given me some time to do some deeper dive reporting, which has been wonderful. I have Dan Newman, who's our videographer and food review guy. He helps out with some things. We have a group of freelancers. And then we have an advisory board of 4 members that helps us shape our coverage. So we're only one of 3 nonprofit newsrooms in Wisconsin. There are about 200 nationwide. So one of the reasons, a diversity in revenue streams. We know from looking at a lot of different research that there is interest in funding newsrooms, in nonprofit newsrooms. We participated last year and will again this year in the News Match program. It is the Knight Foundation, a national organization that will match donors, donations from November to the end of December to help with our funding. We've also been able to get funding from some local foundations as well. The BA and Esther Greenheck Foundation, the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin have all donated to us, and then nationally the MacArthur Foundation, the Democracy Fund, and the Knight Foundation. We have a bunch, we've had about 1,000 individual donors, and we also are able to take advertising dollars. So we do sell ads on our website as well. So it gives us a diverse revenue stream. We're not just dependent on one or the other, and it increases our chance of success. And advertisers have been really great to us, and they've enjoyed it. They are able to grow their business while supporting online local journalism, and they have a lot of pride in that, and I think that's really great. Online, I know that so many people say, "Gosh, I wish you had a newspaper. I wish you had a newspaper that I could hold," and I love reading the newspaper. I mean, I love the feel of it, the smell of it, I like all of it. I love it. But it's, number one, it's really expensive, and number two, there's increasing evidence that shows that more people are getting their news online than ever before. This is just increasing. I mean, in every age group across the board, more people are getting their news online than in any other way. So what do? We're independent, we're local, online only, delivered through a website, Facebook, and we have a new app that we rolled out last week. You can download that for iPhone or for Android. Just go to the App Store and search Wausau Pilot. You'll find that. Still working the bugs out a little bit, but it's been in production for a long time, and we were really excited to get that out. So that's been great. We share a lot of neighborhood news of what goes on in your neighborhood. We do a lot of reporting on crime. We do publish a weekly post of all felony mugshots for the prior week. We do that in cooperation with Marathon County Sheriff's Department. They provide the mugshots to us, and we provide that. We also report on, we do a weekly crime map. It's a lot like what you've got in your newsletter, but we've used data visualization, so you can, take a look at your neighborhood, other neighborhoods, and click on that to see the crime that was committed and a little bit more about it. So that publishes every week on Wednesdays. And we also publish obituaries for free. I know obituaries are very expensive to publish in traditional mediums, but we do that as a public service. Right now, Brainerd Funeral Home is underwriting that for us, so they've sponsored that as a free service throughout the year. So we do Monday and Wednesday and Friday because generally that means we don't miss one, and you don't miss seeing something about a visitation or a funeral that you might want to attend. So we publish a lot about the local schools. All of the press releases that we get from the schools about kids and their accomplishments, their honor roll standings, their prom stuff. I mean, we publish all of that. So it's just, we have a section for community. So we do all of those things that are missing everywhere else. And I don't know about you, but I loved to see, when my kids were still in school, I loved to see my kids' names on those things. It's a matter of pride, and I think it's great. So press releases and business news as well. Businesses send us different releases about their employees, and maybe they're having a grand opening, or maybe they're celebrating some milestone. We're very happy to publish those, and just help people get the word out about what's going on in the community. So those are just some of the things that we do. We do have partnerships with a couple of different groups. So we're a member of the local Independent Online News Publishers Association. That is a national group, Lion it's called, and there are about 200 publications that are members of Lion. Some are for-profit, some are non-profit, but we all share ideas and we often share content, data that we've pulled that might be relevant somewhere else, so they're a great partner to have. We're also part of the Institute for Nonprofit News, and that means some really great stuff for us too, because that means we have some partners like the Center for Public Integrity, ProPublica, the Midwest Center for Investigative Reporting, the Wisconsin Center for Investigative Reporting. Those are all of our partners, and we all share our content. So even though we really strive to be local, really hyper-local, there are times that we see something in one of those publications that we think is relevant to people in Wisconsin, or that there may be a connection here. And so we'll publish that, even if it's not about Wausau or greater Wausau area, we'll still sometimes publish those if we think it has an impact and will interest our readers. So we try to balance that. But it's been a great way to enhance our coverage with some Pulitzer Prize-winning reporters that are on the staffs of those publications. But our emphasis is really on watchdog journalism. I mean, as much as we like to publish the really happy stuff, the school stuff, the press releases, our real mission is investigative journalism. There have been a number of stories in Wausau that I firmly believe would not have gotten told had it not been for our reporters. So we've reported on these things first. Other stations, other news outlets have picked them up later after the fact and done their own take on it, which is thoroughly expected. I mean, but these stories came from us. The Wausau chemical EPA restrictions, we reported on that first, and in some cases only, we were the only ones. Accelerated borrowing by the city, some questions about TIF that came up, questions about how much debt the city has been taking on. Those are stories that we broke, that we researched, and would not have been reported without us. The River Life Village issues, finding out that one of the partners in the River Life Village project had a criminal history and had participated in a $8 million Ponzi scheme for which he was still paying restitution. That ended up prompting city officials to make a change in how developers are vetted and how they make decisions. And that's how it should work. I mean, if we find something like that exposes a flaw, good government entities take that information and they make positive changes to impact the taxpayer so that you're better protected. So, I know that some of the reporting that we do cover is uncomfortable for some city officials, but it should be used as a tool then to make better decisions. The Thomas Street issues, we've been very much on the forefront of that. The Thomas Street toxic soil, the potential for toxic soil, the culvert emptying into Riverside Park, all of those things may not have come to light at all had it not been for our reporting. And those are issues that we're continuing to investigate. We've listened to residents, we've listened to readers, we've talked to experts, and we'll continue to do so. Our spring election coverage, I thoroughly believe that our spring election coverage was better than anyone else's, because we took the time to interview every single local candidate for public office, every single one. And we gave them a list of questions, and they all got the same, for each office, they all got the same questions, so they all had the equal opportunity to answer the same things as the other person. And we organized those in a special section. They were very well read, they were very well received, and I think that kind of coverage is really important, and we'll continue to provide that coverage so that you don't go into an election voting for a local official that you don't know anything about, and that can happen. So our first year was all about readership, trying to get those readers and attract people to our site. And this, our second year now, we're talking about sustainability. So we'll do that by diversifying our revenue stream. We're continuing to sign on new advertisers. We're continuing to look at new ways of raising grant funds to help keep us sustainable, and ultimately, we'd like to be able to hire more reporters. So I'd like to have somebody for sports. I think local sports deserves a lot more attention than what we're currently able to give it. We would like to do that. We'd like to do somebody who covers the South Metro area. I did have a guy who was covering South Metro, and he left and went to Madison for his dream job down there. So I was really happy for him, but bummed for us, because he did such a great job of covering South Metro. So all of it isn't just Wausau. We have to keep an eye on the towns and the villages and what's going on in Rib Mountain and Maine and Spatine, and so we need more people, and that's our goal. That's part of what we do. If you want to support us, read us, just please bookmark us, download the app. Share the stories, share them on Facebook. That helps get the word out about what we're doing, so that more people can see what's going on in their communities. If you have story ideas, send us a tip. If you want to remain anonymous, you can do that. We have a secure tip line that you can contact us through right on our site. Very easy to find, and we love it if you sign your name, but you don't have to. If you have something to tip us off about, let us know, and then we'll investigate from there. We don't ever publish a story just solely based on an anonymous tip, but we would use that to find information to either verify that claim or refute it one way or another. So do get in touch with us. We also accept letters to the editor, and we publish those gladly. Opinion pieces are gladly published as well. So you can email those to us. We do not publish anonymous letters to the editor, so please include your name and contact information. But there's no limit on the length of it. It can be as long as you need it to be, because we don't have the print costs. So say whatever you need to say. But we are glad to get those opinion pieces out there. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you have a business, we'd love it if you would consider advertising with us. There's a link on our page that has a link to our media kit and talks about who our readers are and what benefits you might get from that. But above all else, please get in touch. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your suggestions. If you have suggestions for coverage, something that we're not doing. Just tonight we were talking about adding a neighborhood page where we could have a spot to house all of the neighborhood group news. I think that's a great idea, and we'll make that happen. I was approached a couple weeks ago about a school page when school is in session, and we'll add that too. So yeah, we want to hear from you. We want to hear suggestions. We want to hear your criticisms too. So we can't possibly think of everything. So feel free to get in touch, and I'll stay too and answer individual questions too.